Welcome to a new episode of Founders, Builders, Innovators. I'm the host Jori Karvonen, and today we have one of the best speakers in Finland. From my personal opinion, this is one of the most charismatic, energetic person which I met in my life. His name is André Noël Chaker, who has a lot of deep experience being entrepreneur. André, welcome to show. It's absolutely pleasure to have you here.
I'm so happy to be on FBI. It's
you have
fantastic.
you have so much experience. The list is so great and big. I cannot mention everything. So maybe you are the better seller. Could you please tell us what you have done in your
Well,
life?
the list is long because I'm old, man. That's why, you know. But yeah, it's been a full life. I'm very grateful for everything that life has brought. Along. It's fantastic. And I think that this is a great opportunity for me to talk about entrepreneurship from that perspective because I think a full life is lived when you've lived it like an entrepreneur.
Coming back to your personal experience, you have been more than 30 years lawyer. You are absolutely legend in that way that you have became expert in many fields and tried different kind of things, like you have been director in vehicles, you have organized a sport event. Can you tell a little bit about that also?
Yeah, I was good in school. So a lot of diplomas, good schools, good universities, McGill, 3 diplomas in law, New York bar exams. Yeah, I was a good boy. I wanted to impress my parents. And I was at a top law firm. But then I had this adventurous streak, maybe what we would call an entrepreneurial streak. And when the opportunity came, a phone call came from Finland, I didn't hesitate, and then I led a global scientific organization in sports science. I was their CEO, very young. I was 25 years old, and I was global organization CEO, which was a fantastic thing. But you know, my family is a strange family. My father is an academic. He taught for many years at McGill, also as a professor of literature and rhetoric and good speaker, but old school, but good speaker. And my mother, also a teacher, but her family were all like Italian businessmen, you know, like let's make us some money, you know. So they were like, this is like, and so I was always attracted. And they put me into the fish market and the market where it's called Little Italy in Montreal, where I come from, and I loved the commercial side of things and business stuff. I always dreamt of doing my MBA, but they didn't let me do my MBA at the same time as my law degree, which is possible, but I was too young, they said, and they were right. So I did my MBA here. And that explains my career as an executive, and that's why I started my first company as an entrepreneur of a tech company that then led to being a director of the Finnish National Lottery for their entertainment digital, and that was super exciting and an eye opener into technology and business, and it was like super cool. But all of this, of course, was in the realm of sports. I just knew everybody in the Olympic movement because of my job. And then when Finland tried to get the Olympics to Finland, the Winter Olympics at the end of the 90s, they recruited me as the marketing director and lobbyist because I just knew a lot of people. And that was like super cool. Though, of course, we failed and everybody blamed me, which is, it's always nice. When you're a foreigner, you know, you got to take the good and the bad, you know, c'est la vie. But what was really cool is that then Hari Holkeri and Antti Pilakoski called me to organize this other really huge mega event, which is the world's third largest sports event. It depends how you measure, but let's go by media coverage because there are so many countries that are interested in athletics, and the world's fastest woman and man are super interesting to everybody. So yeah, so that was a big event which nobody thought we would win, and through some good speaking and some good selling, we did it. And so yeah, so that's some of the stuff that I've done that I'm really proud of, good and bad. We know there were some victories, there were some losses, but overall there's a huge learning curve to live in a country that's not your own and thriving and falling in love with the people and with the mission. And it's been a great journey.
Is that the event where you was singing in Finnish?
Yeah, that's right. You remember that? Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, this is the thing, it's the storytelling, and that's something that we'll talk about a little bit later. Is something that's very weak in I would say European leadership, not only Finnish leadership, European leadership. You want to stick with the facts, fact, da 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 da, and you think you sound like really smart, which is good. I mean, everybody can read facts and data, but the real genius of inspiring leaders is if you can embed those facts into a compelling story that touches the heart as much as it touches the mind. And believe it, this was not even my idea. It was the idea of just this wonderful man. Tapani Ilkka was his name, and he's now passed, and brilliant man. And one of the rare great storytellers of Finnish sports. He was the president of the Olympic Committee. And turns out he was an amazing storyteller. And Finns, of course, are tremendous storytellers. And I think that every Finn has probably the potential to be a great storyteller because people in this country are very well read and very well educated, so they should be like fantastic storytellers. But they culturally, they don't, la quiero tarina, don't tell me a story. It's like, it's about emotions and it's a waste of time. They think that it depreciates them somehow or takes away from their credibility, which is crazy because the research tells us, the neuroscience tells us the opposite. Anyway, he knew this intuitively, and Tapani Ilkka this guy can make these big athletes. He can make them cry. He can make them cry with the stories. I mean, this guy was like a magician, and to be honest, I wasn't much of a storyteller, though. I was a storyteller in the realm of culture. I've published great songs on the Finnish radio. I'm a singer. I've done some acting. I did some radio work, some advertising work, and I love storytelling in the realm of culture and entertainment. But I always thought, and maybe similarly to most Finns, that this does not belong to the realm of decision-making, business, politics. You should stick to the facts. I was wrong. He was right. And he said, André, you're here in Kenya helping us with lobbying. This is what we're going to do. You're going to sing a Finnish folk song to open our bid, and we're bidding against 6 other cities. This was like super entrepreneurial because like nobody thought we had a chance in hell, and this is like the former prime minister of the country asking you to do this with Tapani Ilkka, who I had huge respect for. And I said, guys, I'm a lawyer. It's about fact, argument. What the hell? Want me to sing a song? Well, it's crazy. It's emotional. It's storytelling. Hui, as they say in Finnish. No, and he said, André, trust us. You're young. Listen to us. When you tell a story, you'll touch the heart, and at least we have a chance. Because if we stick to the facts that, we have a shitty stadium, we have only one-fifth of the money that Moscow is offering, pick us, please. If you stick only with the facts, you're dead. But if you could say, hey, despite of the fact that we have a lot less resources, we actually have a great story, and the story was a true one. It was a story of Ferreira Silva, a Brazilian triple jumper, very handsome black man, but in the 1952 Olympic Games in Helsinki, who spontaneously used this folk song, which is a Finnish romantic folk song. Niin minä neitonen sinulle laulan kuin omalle kullalleni. Niin minä neitonen sinulle laulan, and so on and so on. And it's a courting song, right? And it turns out that somebody told me, if you with gold medal, black sexy guy, you use this song on the Finnish women in 1952. Yeah, man, no problem. You're going to be very popular. And it turns out he was very popular because he came back every other year to Finland, made a lot of friends. So this was a beautiful moment because the other true story is that he died in the year 2001, but on his last trip in the year 2000 before the Sydney Games, he was here in Helsinki again, but as an old man, and he sang this song to the national team and brought us luck because we won a gold medal in shot put, and that was the story. We we're authentic, we're genuine. We know how to create memories that last a lifetime, even with limited resources. We don't need Moscow's money. We don't need Berlin's beautiful stadium to do that because we have a passion for this sport. We lied a little bit. We said that, in Finland, the weather is amazing all the time, almost all the time. And it turned out to be absolutely shitty weather. It was like rain. It was disastrous rain. But we didn't know that 2 years before, right? Or 3 years before when we were bidding. And we won that by a vote of 15 to 14, by one vote against Berlin in the finals.
Amazing.
So the power of storytelling. I love to use this story. It's part of the Finnish Miracle, my book. It's a great story at many levels, but it definitely is a great example of the power of storytelling.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this inspiration. And I would like to ask you how to be bold, how to be brave to sing in Finnish, not your native language, in front of huge audience. Like, how can I become this kind of?
Well, I was well trained for that for many reasons. The only way you can get love in my home is to speak well and to speak with confidence. My father taught languages and rhetoric. He was an amazing speaker, old school guy. Ultra Catholic, ultra disciplined kind of guy. If you wanted to be loved by my father, you had to show up in a certain way. So that I was. But then I took, I was in theater, I was in music, I was in a rock band, I was in a teenage rock band when I was a kid in Canada. But then one thing that completely eliminated my stage fright was a job that I had in law school. Which I was working for a company called the Singing Telegram Company of Montreal. The Singing this was big in the late 80s and early 90s before you were born. It's like this was like a really cool concept. You would send people to parties and to their workplaces or to their homes to sing a telegram with balloons and and roses or whatever flowers, and you would sing a cappella, right? And it doesn't matter where you were. They sent you. You would go to a restaurant, a school, a home, old folks' home. You were all over the place, and you had to go there with like amazing presents, a cappella, happy birthday. I was like, and. Once you do that a couple of hundred times around the city, man, I sang in the streets when I was a young man with my guitar, collected money. I was well trained to face an audience. So I believe that the 10,000 hour rule. If you still believe in that rule, there's a lot of research that shows that maybe it's not so true. But I believe, and I think, and there's a lot of research to say that the more you sensitize yourself to a fear, step by step, you become less and less fearful. So the best thing is to do not to jump into the water and figure out whether you can swim or not, but you can learn how to swim slowly into the deep end. Then the more you swim, the stronger swimmer you'll be, and the less likely you'll be afraid, and the less likely you'll be to drown. Right? So this is like a very, very common approach to things. So to be bold, you need to be bold in doses over time. And the more bold you are, the more bold you can become.
So it sounds like by doing you can achieve more.
Yeah. But of course I would do it in doses, right? I wouldn't go out there and try to sing in front of decision makers if you've never done it before, maybe in a smaller group, in a safer group, and see how well you do. Because when you do crazy things like that, you better have that self-confidence. Because that easily people are going to say, okay, the guy's weak, or he's kind of, what the hell, and you have to, what the Finns call pokka, they said that you have to have that confidence, that almost slightly arrogant self-confidence to push things through. And sometimes it works. In this case, it worked beautifully. People still remember it today.
Comparing Finland to Canada or USA, because what we see, we have so many great speakers, so many good storytelling people from Canada, from USA. Uh, what is the difference? How we have so less in Finland? Like, is it education or like, what is the reason?
I think there are a lot of layers there. One, of course, is the nature of education. Europeans, again, and Finns are no different, well, not very different from Germans, even French people, to be honest, and not even to speak of the eastern part of Europe, where we've emphasized writing, reading, counting. That's like 95% of the education. Speaking, you'll speak when you're ready. It's like a negligible skill. That to be true and to be honest, in France, Italy, you do have oral exams, but that's interesting because they have these oral exams, part of the tradition, but it's sort of you're on your own. There's no methodology or even practice of oral delivery. All right, you sort of show up and you do your best. Right? In our culture, we integrate storytelling from kindergarten. Every child brings a toy, and tell us about your vacation. Tell everybody what is your favorite toy and why. And you bring it and you show it. This is my toy, and I love her because blah, blah, blah. And then you start at 6 years old and you're in front of people and you're telling everybody about, what you did this weekend or you're drawing. And so we integrate this. To be frank, even there, I think we have a weak education system because it's more learning by doing, which is fine. But we could give guidance. This is what we're trying to do with Rhetoric AI, is to give you the best AI tools to make you a more impactful speaker with knowledge of what works and doesn't, right? And what works for you and doesn't with AI and coaching and knowledge that has been just exploding in the age of AI. We know so much more about speaking from the past 10 years research than we know from the past 100 years of research. So capitalizing on that obviously is good. So there's an education deficit. There's also a cultural deficit, or I wouldn't say even a deficit. Is your culture, you get from your culture what you emphasize and measure and value. Especially, I'd say Finnish values, maybe German values. It's what you do. These are engineering cultures. They value the construction of things, especially in a language like Finnish that nobody understands around the world. The way towards succeeding internationally even was to succeed through great engineering, great running, great things that are measurable and technical. Nobody became great fans of Finnish tango or Finnish movies before, like maybe 20 years ago. So nobody even heard about that. So emphasizing things that actually matter for that culture. So these things did not matter so much, as much as maybe storytelling, which is for the U.S. and Hollywood, and the essence of the Marshall Plan is culture, right? So there's huge investments in Hollywood and messaging and storytelling and developing propaganda, as it were. So less so in this culture. Also, if we're honest, the Germans, for example, with all due, had a lot of problems with influential speakers from the war times. They saw the power of agitator speakers. So if you're too loud and too convincing, it's actually there's a bit of a suspicion that you're an agitator or you're exaggerating, and that's not good, right? So there's that element of culture as well in the air in this. So for all these reasons, we're in a culture that emphasizes reading, writing, counting, less speaking. And there's good things about that. For example, the best listeners in the world are from Finland. I love this culture for the silence and the listening and the peace and the intelligence that comes from that. It's beautiful. I think all great speakers are great listeners, even in my culture. And that's something Finns do extremely well.
I remember from college that the best salesperson is who is listening 80% and talking 20%.
Yeah, but directing with questions.
Yes.
So it's not just listening. You go, yeah, oh, hi, nice. It's It's listening with a plan. It's listening with a direction and directing people with questions. That's the best salesperson. That becomes more and more intelligent and is guiding very intelligently the person's speaking and thinking towards a point where they'll be interested in having them solve their problems that they've just talked about, right? So that's the best. So it's, I would say, active listening.
Coming back to your AI solution, is it something which gonna replace your agency, or it's additional tool for?
Yeah, I guess we're doing some kind of Uber to ourselves, or Airbnb to ourselves. On the long term, yes. We mean well. But we don't want to kill an industry. But I think that inevitably and indirectly, as we empower legions of people to become better speakers, more impactful speakers, more inspirational speakers, the need for our top professional speakers may decrease. On the other hand, and time will tell, by educating a mass amount of people on how difficult and how wonderful speaking can be in their business, in their work, they will also develop a sense of value of good speaking and understand the value of these superior speakers and maybe emphasize even more their value. I don't know. We'll probably have a bit of both happening into the market, but we will disrupt it to a certain extent. Our goal is to give the gift of powerful speaking to everyone in every language. It's possible. It's not just an art that you're born with. You can develop and improve your speaking with AI, with some coaching, with some good education that you should have received during your education. You can become more impactful. You can get what you want. You can succeed in your business. You can succeed in your career at a level that you can never imagine possible if you were not empowered to do so through good communication skills. And that's what we want to give to people with Rhetoric AI.
Okay, let's change the hat from speaker to entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You are building right now AI solutions, SaaS. Previously, you have successful story with agency. What kind of difference you can see building two different business types?
Well, yeah.
And challenges.
Yeah, Well, I started, 20 years ago as a tech entrepreneur right after business school into mobile technologies, enterprise solutions for teleoperators that we were selling in the communication space, and we did an exit of our company, and ultimately Nokia bought us, and that was our first exit. That was like 100 years ago, 22 years ago. And so I have that background. But when I came into the lottery, 5% of our turnover was digital. When I left the lottery, it was 50% of the 2 billion turnover. So and that was in 9 years, from 2006 to 2015. We completely disrupted that business. I don't know if we could call it. I don't know if we disrupted it, but yeah, at least we transformed it. And they were like two parallel. And all the time, when you do something new, the old will shout at you. When we were basically opening a competitive shop to the arkioski, and to all the physical sales people go, oh, you have your own shop now, and then they hate you, and you get some hate mail, and even with all due respect, within my speaker, when we have a new technology, a new service, all the resources are going there, and you're going to fight, and then the same story at Neste. Neste is a great story. People got physically aggressive, from what I understand, when Neste, because of the mandate of the Finnish state in 2003, said, create a company that doesn't rely on fossil fuel at Neste, okay? And they came in with, the first biofuels, and now the fuel that I use is their great my diesel, or, my Neste, whatever. I use it all the time. I don't remember what it is. It's my Neste, or it's like AMU, whatever, mu. And it's a great product. It's a €1 billion product, right? From zero. But people would fight internally like crazy. But that's the greatest part about entrepreneurship, is if you don't make people angry, you're not doing something right. Right? You know, if you're not breaking some eggs, you're not making an omelet, right? It's like it's gonna happen, right? In every situation, you're bringing something new. The people who love the old are gonna hate your guts, man. They're gonna say, no, shit, get out of here, and that's great because then it forces you to iterate and demonstrate traction and demonstrate value and repeat, develop, sell. And then when you have evidence, people shut up slowly. So, okay, well, maybe you have a point. Yeah, I actually see some synergies here. Oh, actually, maybe this is actually helping us because when you're developing that, it's marketing for the old as well. Oh my God, yeah, well, we're one happy family again. You know, it's like, it's the same cycle all the time.
Yeah, that's our nature, that we are against new things.
Yeah.
We get used to something which
we're
working.
lazy bastards.
Exactly.
All of us. Yeah, we're so lazy.
How to understand that you are doing something against people and you are building something and bringing new values? Because usually when you're collecting feedback, when you do market research, they're telling you, they're guiding you, like, oh yeah, we like this feature, or like, oh, we like this opportunity or product. How to understand that, okay, they are not happy, but you are doing actually very good, correct product?
Well, there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of marketing research involved. I believe in testing with the best possible personas for your product. You know, finding the right personas, the right profiles that are going to be in your early adopter part of the curve, and then testing with them. If you're testing with people who are laggards, right, you're going to be very depressed because even if you showed them like a cure for cancer, they're going to say, well, I don't know. It's like okay. So I mean, you really know how you need to do this so that you don't get depressed. That you're in the right zone, the right segment, the early adopters for your product with the right personas, and then testing things out really quickly and failing fast, as it were. And which we did in the first phases of Rhetorich, is what we invited people to test. And we had a lot of great collaborations with the University of Tampere that ultimately did a research on the hundreds and hundreds of people who were using it on a demo basis. And we learned from that, and we developed and corrected. And that's the fun part of the game.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Coming back to your personal story, so you have very deep expertise in different kind of fields. Usually, like, people are becoming expert in one industry. Sometimes for their whole life, they are like staying in one industry, which may be increasing their status. But you have done lawyer, you have done tech founder activities, speaker, many others, singing, artist. So how you compare this kind of, is it good that you have so many things, or it's better to focus on one niche?
I think that you're at your most successful when you learn early on who you are. And you don't only accept it, but you embrace it. And then you go all in on every opportunity that comes your way.
Even if they're scary.
Even if they're what?
Scares you. Scary.
Oh, but yeah, obviously. They will all scare you. I mean, everything. Even if you stay in your lane, they'll be, I know my friends who were in law school and are still lawyers today, 30 years later, they're dead scared every week, of the next case, right? I mean, you'll be scared anyway because the competition, whether it's deep in your lane or cross lanes, will be hard. However, you find that there is a strategy of combining skills. To be honest, my dream was to combine law and economics and business, always. The technology came when I arrived in Finland, and the MBA I received was very communications heavy. So tech came, the magic of technology I discovered in business school. And then from there, it was learning by leading these wonderful teams of engineers and stuff. And that was so cool, the learning journey. I know that I'm a curious person. I just love learning different things. If I'm too deep in one lane, I would get bored, and I I'd start drinking and being a bad husband, and you don't want me to do that. So, I'd much rather be stimulated by work, and I don't know, I don't want to say that I'm particularly smart, but I feel that if you do administrative law 30 years, every year, the same year, you're probably really good at that, but I don't want to put it down, but for me, it's not enough, right? I mean, I want to get into another branch of the law, and then maybe into the business, and then into the technology, and then have a layer of your life that you find inspirational, where you can develop at a high level. I was very lucky that I started very young as a musician, as a singer, and it just served me so well. For example, to sing, to get the world championships to Finland, right? They took me in because I was a lawyer, and I could write and argue things. I was actually, my first two books were the first books of the European of the Council of Europe in international sports law. I wrote the first book in international sports law. So there was that legal writing competence, also my networks that I developed that were another competence, and then my languages, so that I can speak in French, Spanish, and English to people who actually work in those languages, which is another layer of competence. And then, the cherry on the sundae is that I was able to sing into their hearts, right? So when you combine skills together from all of who you are, your entire humanity, you capture hearts and minds. They trust you because you have the solid competence of a solid education, or at least if it's not education, great experience and demonstration that you can actually do things, whatever it is, from plumber to doctor, whatever it is, you have that competence, but then you also have that humanity, that whether it's a storytelling skill, a singing skill, a dancing skill, something that makes you human in people's eyes, that is beautiful in their eyes, and that is relevant to what they want to hear. That package becomes irresistible when you are multifaceted, instead of being, I'm your lawyer and I want to tell you that I'm going to sue you if you don't vote for me. That wouldn't go very well. You need to combine, when you're able to combine skills convincingly, and you spend your life developing new skills, that's a beautiful asset, especially in entrepreneurship, because in entrepreneurship, especially in early stage companies, you need to be good at so many things to be successful. My wife is a great example of that as well. It's even more concrete for her, because what she's done with Villa Steinberg is just an amazing thing. It's almost accidental, but she's now developed a resort concept in Finland, in the city of Lohja, which nobody believed could ever be a resort city, ever. And it's now the number one Airbnb site to host a wedding in Europe. Number one in Europe. Okay. But where does this come from? First of all, it comes from a drive. She's in business school like me, and then she did a diploma in interior design. So she loved design. Then she went deep into building, getting hands-on passion for building, actually destroying and then building new or saving new buildings, which demands a huge amount of renovation. So she became an expert at renovation and construction with design, with a diploma in MBA sales and marketing. So that entire scheme of not only be a good designer, a good builder, a good marketer, or a good salesperson. Actually, she also needs to be a very good cleaner, a very good gardener. I mean, there's all these elements of competence that make her a phenomenal entrepreneur, because she had to have this constellation of skills to be successful in a small business where you have to do a little bit of everything, right? And that's the essence of entrepreneurship, is actually learning to be good at very different things at the same time. Because if you only want to pick one lane, then you have to work for a big company where there are 30,000 people working, and then you do your little thing until you die. And then and some people love doing that, and that's great. God bless them. That's what they want to do. That's fine. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, you better have a fairly wide selection of skills. If you don't, you better have a partner who compensates because you're going to sink.
Yeah, my reflection on your speech that what we see in public about entrepreneurs or successful stories, we see only the top of the iceberg, and the bottom is skills. These leaders, they are entrepreneurs, they are developing all the time, they're learning new things, they're becoming better persons. Maybe you can share some kind of secret or insight from your education of leaders, some kind of secret, like what do you teach them?
Yeah, in the leadership realm, well, because of Rhetoric AI, we focus on the language of leadership. We focus on communicating as a leader. Right? So what are the drivers of effective leadership when you want to communicate as a great leader? And we do a lot of work on credibility development. We also do a lot of work on likability development. We do work on presence or executive presence. I know it's a bit of a negative term, but presence is a good thing, and to be present as a leader is important. We work with authenticity, developing that in all aspects of your voice, your appearance, how you show up, and what exactly are you saying to sound authentic and genuine in that situation. And then we develop their skills in storytelling. We work with those are the skills we've done, of course. But I was a leadership consultant. I was a leader myself. So how do you develop a good strategy story? How do you document your strategy? How do you develop your strategy? And then how do you roll out your strategy? We enjoy working with our leaders in all of those aspects as well. I do personally. So I take care more of our leaders and high level leaders, our CEOs, our CFOs, our CMOs, and how to give them the power of leadership through great communication.
Do these kind of people also having doubts or fear of public speaking?
Many of them, and I would say, with all due respect, that the majority are poor communicators, unfortunately.
They're also humans.
Yeah, they're humans, and that's another great skill. It's one skill that they need to learn. I'm very grateful to the Finnish and to the European education system that has produced such mediocre speakers, because that's a great business for us, you see.
There's a lot of job for you.
Yeah, they've created massive opportunity for Rhetoric AI. So grateful.
Okay, we spoke about this topic, but I would like to share it to our audience as well. Great leaders like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, they are super tech, they're super product developing persons. They are very good what they're doing, but as a leaders, humanity part are weaker. Yeah, maybe you can tell something about that. Like why it's happening.
Yeah, well, I think that they were very impactful speakers. They get their message across. They were some of the most heard people in the world. The product launches at Apple are legendary in the structure and the delivery of the message, the storytelling around the iPhone, around the first Tesla cars, the story of saving the planet, and they are great storytellers, and they're very different in their styles, but in their approach to communication, they were extremely effective, extremely impactful. In terms of their empathy skills, they are notoriously low. For all kinds of reasons, but empathy creates greater sustainable leadership over long periods of time. Steve Jobs did not live that long, with all due respect. And if you want to create a longer legacy, and if you want to create sustainable leadership, that's another path. But if you want to create faster growing companies, what they call the signal to noise ratio in these people is very low. So they don't accept any noise in their life. Any what noise they consider to be the human hassles of life, like family and and friends and people who complain, and they had very little time. Maybe Steve Jobs felt that he had very little time, And he wasn't very good at that, so he focused on what he was good at: communicating extremely effectively, developing big ideas, and being passionate and obsessed about what he did. And that's one path, and that's one life choice. There are others. Warren Buffett, 93. We tend to, it's something about our CEOs. We need to have a better picture of our CEOs. We tend to have when, of course, Steve Jobs in those years, in his peak years, was fairly young, right? The same with Elon Musk. But what is the average age of a Fortune 500 CEO? 59.5. My God, did I tell you about it? You remember that? Anyway, yeah. What's interesting is that it goes down to Zuckerberg in like 40, to Warren Buffett, who's now retiring, but 93. And financially or commercially, the CEOs between 70 and 93 are as successful, as wealthy as the CEOs of 40 to 50. Guys like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates are actually quite human leaders. That's one way to go, and they tend to live longer and to have maybe a better legacy as humans and entrepreneurial leaders. So it's a choice.
Yeah, and also nowadays I think the competition is so high between these big, huge scale-ups or corporates that people have choices where to go to work.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you are a bad leader and you have bad reputation,
you want to attract the talent, especially today. It's really hard to recruit young and brilliant talent. So that definitely is a big part of it.
Coming back to education of leaders and entrepreneurs, Finnish culture is very minimalistic, humble, don't be loud.
Low key.
Yeah. Entrepreneurs are the opposite. You have to be very optimistic, you have to be bold, you have to take risk. How you teach, how you match the...
I would be very careful in making all of those assumptions. I think you need to play to your strength as an entrepreneur. There are great introverted entrepreneurs, and sometimes they are the best ones. They're the most driven. If we look at a typical Finnish entrepreneur, there are a lot of strength in the ways a Finnish entrepreneur and the ones that have succeeded. We have like fantastic companies. The 90s were amazing years for companies like Nokia and others that were like very entrepreneurial, very curious, and these were propelipät. They were inventors with a passion, and where they were not necessarily very loud or very eloquent, especially not in English in those days, but they were definitely what Finns called sisukas. They were stubborn, they would never give up, they were resilient, they were people who know how to maximize resources, to do a lot with little, which is part of the Finnish culture. Again, because of the poverty of the country. Finland was a poor country until the 70s, and many of these entrepreneurs of the 90s were raised in the poor 70s. So how do you maximize your resources? And with amazing curiosity, massive investment in education and higher education, with this resilient attitude that is there to listen at what everybody does. So great listeners are great at competitive analysis, for example. There are a lot of strengths, natural strengths in Finnish entrepreneurial style. Where they're less good is, and there are exceptions, because there are great companies that have been great at marketing and selling a lot, zillions of them. We can name many, but where there's still some work to do is on the storytelling, on speaking in a way that touches minds and touches hearts in a more effective way. And that's where there's more work to do. But again, as we talked about, it's not one skill. It's not being a great talker. That will not make you a successful entrepreneur overall. You need to be good at a lot of things, and typically Finns are well equipped because of the education, because of the culture, because of the realism. Also, is not a bad thing to have as an entrepreneur. But then the boldness that you need to go further, especially outside of your comfort zone into another culture. Finns typically were not good at that, but not more and more they are because they're exposed to the rest of the world a lot more than the previous generation. So there's an evolution there.
As we spoke right now about Finnish entrepreneurs and leaders, previously in our meeting we had discussion about foreign entrepreneurs, and this topic touched me on personal level. Why it's so important for Finland to have entrepreneurs, foreign entrepreneurs?
You know, where I come from, our most successful companies in Canada and in the US, let's take the Fortune 500, for example. 40% of these companies were founded by foreigners or sons or daughters of foreigners. You know, even the people you mentioned before, you know, Elon Musk is a foreigner. Steve Jobs was an adopted child from a Syrian father, right? The list goes on, and now huge amount of CEOs in tech are from Indian descent, starting with you know, the Microsoft going down, or from China, from NVIDIA, and have that ethnic background. So it's so clear that you need diversity to make sure that you have the very best people. If your pool is too small, you know, successful entrepreneurs are quite a small part of the population are really good at becoming, I would say, massively successful entrepreneurs. It's not that big of a pool. So you improve your chances if you have a wider pool, not only ethnically, but also making sure that you open opportunities to the young, to the old, and not only to a certain age group, but not to certain ethnic groups, or you make sure that you maximize your ability to have men and women involved, and maximize your chances for success when your pool is wider and deeper, as it were. So that's just mathematics, and that makes sense. So what's interesting about Finland is that it costs almost nothing to study here, as opposed to North America, where it could cost you like $100,000 a year. And Finland, I've counted once that in the past 30, 40 years, Finland has been very open to having people come from abroad and study, and then when they come and they pay almost nothing, and they get like really good education at all levels of education. And what percentage of these people have stayed in Finland to start companies? It's unfortunate that we don't have a statistic on this, a formal one, but the unanimous opinion of people in government and people in academia is that figure is way below 1%. So if you have countries like the US and Canada, where it is proven that dynamism in entrepreneurship will produce these massively successful companies, as one driver, there are other factors, of course, but that's definitely one of them. You may want to invest in this, seriously invest in this. Make sure that you're an attractive country for talent, and that there is a path towards successful entrepreneurship in your country. And of course, it doesn't have to be a replica of what the US is, but it has to be a solution for entrepreneurs who would like to work in something of a different society, where there are clear advantages in terms of happiness and access to health care and great education and nature and safety. And there are people who value these things, and I think that we're very competitive. But then giving them a true path towards succeeding in business, then this country will do very well. If we don't, then we know that at this rate, in 100 years, one scenario is that we're not 5.5 million Finns, we're like 2.5 million Finns if we don't do something about it. So I think it's an existential question for Finland. It's an existential question for Finnish business and entrepreneurship as well.
Is it a question for entrepreneurs and the government and for nation? Because, as you probably know, facts tell us that Finland is one of the racist country in the Europe. I think it's in top 2, specifically if we talk about dark skin people. So how we can change this situation, how we can embarrass people to be more open for foreign who are bringing more value for Finland?
Vantaa. That's the solution. Vantaa is a beautiful example. Vantaa is the fastest growing city in this country. And it's all powered by foreign entrepreneurship. It's a beautiful example of what Finland can be once we get going. I mean, North America was extremely racist. One of the most racist. I mean, we had like a huge segregation. And that's only, it's not like 100 years ago. We're talking like 40 years ago. All right. Very racist, very segregated. I remember in North America, we thought, hey, when the Irish came, they can never become American or Canadian. From China and Vietnam, and they can never become American because, and now you couldn't be more American than people who have that background, and they're leading great companies, and they are part of the fabric of that country. And I think with that, it's a bit like what we talked about the fear of the things you don't know. The only way to tackle the fear of what you don't know is to have clear example in your own life where you see that, oh my God, this family came from India, their children speak Finnish like I do, we went to the same schools, we went to the same hockey clubs. There are brothers and sisters. There are uussuomalaiset, and we're going to build a nation together. And that's going to happen with time, inevitably. When I came to this country, only 30 years ago, the percentage of foreigners in this country was 0.7%. 0.7% of non-born in Finland. That's 30 years ago. This is a very young country to immigration. Okay, you can go way back, and Mahti Ahtisaari has roots in Norway, and Marshall Mannerheim, his family came from Holland. Okay, you can do that kind of like deep analysis of the immigration, but let's call it last 200 years. And the process of Finnishization, even people who had Russian roots or Swedish roots, they changed their names to be like everybody else, right? So there was this unbelievable, I would call it racist approach to only Finns, and I think that was a reaction also towards creating a new nation and wanting to be very strong in the statement of we now have a nation, everybody is a Finn, right? And that's very young, right? So the whole experience with modern day immigration is extremely young. We can't expect it to be as good as it is in Canada or even in the US. And even those countries I know were very racist only 50, 60 years ago, where maybe Finns are now because of where they are in history. But 30 years from now, I have all the confidence in the world that will not be more of a problem than where I come from.
Absolutely, and I'm agree with you that I see the new generation is totally changing the attitude and reaction to foreign people. Just following up your topic that I know, for example, from Vanta, Mika, hi Mika, they're building bridge between Germany, so they're connecting Finnish startup with German market and the opposite as well. And also Sisu Factory, they are trying to bring more startups outside of Europe to here to Finland. So I see clearly that government is trying to put some budget to this kind of activity.
Especially smart government like Mika and the mayor of Vantaa. These people are progressive people. They're great people.
Yeah. Continue topic of foreign people. I would like you to tell the story of Schwarzenegger because it's it's about accent and people who are.
This is something again. I come from a school of thought. My father believed that your impact and your integration to society should come through being as perfect as you can, being as brilliant as perfect as you can, speaking French, in the best possible way, and you make an impression. And perfection is equated to influence and power and respect, right? And even in business school, and maybe it's true in the economic sense, but we're always saying, okay, if you have to be number one or number two in a market, if you're number three, you're lost already. So it's very competitive to be the best from that perspective. But in the realm of influence, of human influence in communication, it's not so clear. My example, I was always surprised. I mean, when they called me, I was working for Veikkaus. I was in Brussels on a lobbying trip for the company, and the guy calls me and says, hey, onneksi olkoon, you've been voted Speaker of the Year in Finland, the first foreigner in Finnish. And I said, yeah, very funny, man. Yeah, hyvä vitsi, hey, heppa. He's like, what the hell, man? And then he calls back, they're angry. No, tää ei ole mikä vitsi, hei. Tää on suuri kunnia, se kunnia vastaan. Yeah, but I mean, I'm sorry, but I have a hard time believing what you're saying. I mean, it's my fifth language. I just learned it in the past 10 years, painfully because of my wife, How's it possible? How can I become the best when I'm deficient? I have this broken Finnish, right? It's messy. It's okay. I speak it in my own special way, but but still, I'm not like Eino Leino, right? So it was wonderful because the second I won in 2012, 2014, 2015 is the Nordic Business Forum, and our keynote speaker, our star speaker is Arnold Schwarzenegger at the end of the day. I'm moderating, script writing, moderating, and then I get to introduce him to the Nordic Business Forum. And then he comes backstage, and we're getting ready. But he comes early, like 2 hours early, and he came right straight from his private jet. And then went to the gym first. First thing he does, gym first. Then he comes, he's been sweating a little bit, and then he looks at us backstage, and he says, "Okay, boys, what do we do now?" And I said, "Hello, Mr. Schwarzenegger. Well, it's great to have you, and welcome to Finland. Well, as we discussed with your agent, this is how we plan to introduce you." And I show him the piece of paper. He looks at the piece of paper. He reads it. He goes, yeah. But then he looks around, and all these, blue-eyed, supisuomalaiset are there. And then there's me, the brown guy who sounds like he's from New York City. And he goes, "But who are you?" And I said, "Yeah, I know. I look strange. I'm not from Finland, obviously, originally. But actually, I'm from here now because last year they voted me Speaker of the Year." And he says, "Speaker of the Year, you in Finland, in Finnish?" And I said, "Yeah, it's very strange, but I swear to God, it's the truth." And then he asks me a really smart question. He says, "Okay, André, tell me, when you speak Finnish, do you have an accent?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, when I speak Finnish, I have a fairly strong accent." And then he comes and he's like really nice, and he takes me by the shoulder and he says, "I'll tell you a secret, André. Your accent is your greatest advantage, yeah." And that's what I realized. That's why I won the prize of the best speaker. Because it's not about perfection. It's about being positively unique. And this is one of the theories I develop in the Finnish Miracle. Finding your positive uniqueness as a business, as an entrepreneur, as a person, to be as desirable as you are different. Not only different, not only desirable and different at the same time, requires you to have things that may look strange, may look surprising, but then in a context become your greatest strength. And that was it. That was the big epiphany of, wow, it's not about being number one and number two. You could be number 1,000 into something, but actually that defect, what people perceive as a defect or a weakness, it can actually become your greatest strength. And what a great example for him. It didn't stop him from being governor of California, being one of the greatest superstars in Hollywood, which demands command of language, obviously. It actually helped him. Right? So embrace the things that you might think are not that appealing. Embed them in who you are. Develop them. Obviously, if you want to be an actor, you need to be very clear, right? So he trained his English. I mean, his English is very well trained, but there's still that color that he didn't want to get rid of. And that was his positive uniqueness. And I will never give up my French-Canadian accent in Finnish. I'm very proud of it. And it's served me well.
Absolutely love your your story. It's already the second time when I hear, and it's touched me all every time.
Isn't it a good story? I think so. We got to thank Arnold for being so nice and so gracious.
Thank you for sharing.
I also have one question. You speak on international stages in a language that isn't your mother tongue. Many people feel that this affects how their personality, confidence, and emotion come through. From your experience as a speaker, how can someone navigate this and still communicate authentically?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And we see it in Rhetoric AI, where we actually measure personality across languages. So typically people will have this kind of, like very varied personality in their own native tongue. And then when they speak English or another foreign language, it's very even. It's very boring. And especially our scientists, they speak like, scientific English. But then when they speak Finnish, it's like more varied and their true selves come true. So that's one, is to know, to understand this. And then to develop your language to a level where you're at least fluent in that language. And then that's just painfully learning the structures, the vocabulary, and exposing yourself to culture. And in my case, it was exposing myself to music. I became a translator of the biggest rock star in this country called Jori Karvonen. I translated like 30 of his songs in English and French. We became great friends. We had a #1 hit on the radio, 1995, Kolme Cowboys in English. 3 old cowboys leaving town and the sun is slowly coming down. It was like a great song, #1 for many weeks on the radio. Then my song, which is Han in French, like Elle, celle qui m'a fait voir seul, qui m'a fait croire à elle, à l'amour éternel. And it demanded me to penetrate the culture and enjoy my development and understanding the mega stories of that culture and the language of that culture and the idioms and the metaphors and just embracing that. But that being said, regardless of the work I did, even for 10 years, I still will not be as good as the very top speakers. So to devise a positive uniqueness with my accent is to also determine how can I do better. Then comes in, the dimensions of influence through speaking, which is elements of voice. There are 8 realms of voice where you can develop skills in, pitch variability, rhythm variability, pauses, articulation. It's a science, okay? So developing a better rhythm, a better or at least a different variability than they were. So my vocal influence was stronger because of my singing, because of my acting. So I was stronger and I was different, and also breaking the typical rhythm of the language, which creates some interest, right? So on voice. Then appearance. I embraced my darkness, right? I embraced the fact that I was different, that I dressed differently, that I love colors, that and that I would move differently, that I use my hands like an Italian, that, I would embrace these differences. And then in the speaking, of course, I would emphasize my competence through my academic background. I would research everything. I would be as relevant. I would do the extra effort of doing relevance analysis through understanding context, the why, and then the who, and then knowing myself even better than they did. And then a trick was interesting, which is a trick of many politicians, is you are actually more appealing when you are a bit more simple. High complexity actually draws people away. The very academic speakers or the very well-spoken sometimes are so complex that they distance themselves from the mass of people. So the fact that I was able to speak simpler Finnish, good, different, but maybe not as sophisticated, but simpler, actually gave me a much bigger audience than these niche experts who spoke in even what Finns would consider beautiful Finnish, but a little bit cryptic, right? And I would be in English and in French, typically in that category of like very complex words, and then the fact that I was doing the most with the scope or the spectrum of words that I had, I maximized this, and my message landed better because it was actually less complex than my competitors. So that became actually an advantage. We have a rule in speaking, which is the KISS method of keeping it simple, stupid, and if you can always simplify, clarify, your message lands better than if you're like, just going around in circles and using fancy language that doesn't really mean anything for people. Simplicity is key in communication. Make clarity is key in communication, and I put a lot of effort in that, even if I wasn't as fluent and as sophisticated in Finnish as my competitors in the day.
Less is more.
Absolutely.
Okay, changing a little bit topic. I know last week you was participating in the Sector Automotive Rally.
That's right. Yes, I was there.
We recorded one of previous episode with Matthias.
Oh,
and he was there with you.
Matthias.
And you met there the big star from UK.
Yeah. Richard Hammond was our big star for Spark the Future, and hats off to Matthias. Matthias is one reason why I was there. Matthias is a visionary entrepreneur. His company is not just another rental, car rental. It's a car rental that wants to change the world, that wants to save the car. And when they approached them, he said that, okay, I'll be a part of this if sustainability is at the heart of the development plan for the rally. And not the easiest thing, because when you think of sustainability, you don't think of a car rally necessarily. You think, it smells of gasoline, and it's messy, and people can get hurt, and it's all a bunch of old white males. It's not exactly the triumph of diversity. It's like sustainability is not top of mind with most people. And I remember when they invited me to co-produce this event that we branded Spark the Future, which I think is a brilliant name for this business event. I remember meeting a politician of the Green Party at the train station in Helsinki on my way to Jyväskylä. And I said, hey, how's it going? He said, hey, what are you doing, André? Oh, actually, I'm going to Jyväskylä. We're planning to develop a business event promoting sustainability in the world of rallies and motorsports. And he looks at me and he starts laughing. Ei helvetti, ei vitsi. Ihan mahdotonta. Impossible, André. I mean, do something else with your time. I mean, you can do anything. Why, and I said, but that's the whole point. If you can make the rally sustainable, you can make anything sustainable. That's the moonshot. That's the inspiration we need. That's what Matthias wants to do. And we partner together in developing Spark the Future to bring the greatest minds in sustainability in business to see how we can create a sustainable world from the metaphor of a sustainable car and a sustainable motorsports event, which will be fossil-free, which will create wealth and health for everybody involved, right? That in long term, from something that people consider to be very negative for the environment can actually be something very positive for the environment. And we're on that road. And it was great to have Richard Hammond, who was an absolute legend of Top Gear. I like to use polls when I speak and when I moderate. And I had some really cool questions. One, of course, is I ask people, okay, what is, in your opinion, the greatest innovation of all time? And then you had like penicillin and other medicines and water, and I'm sorry, fire and the wheel, and of course there was the car. and Richard Hammond is passionate. In his opinion, it's one of the youngest innovations. It's only 100 years old, the car, right? And in his opinion, and he has a great story about how it's central to our development as human beings, is to have a thing that can take us to where we need to go, so that we can develop this world. And it was poetic that at that event we launched the first hydrogen race car. So Toyota came on the stage, rock star welcome to the first racing car for the rally that produces only water out of the exhaust.
Unbelievable.
So the first hydrogen car. And we announced the first hydrogen refueling station that will be in Jyväskylä, interestingly enough. And painting a future towards the innovation we need to make anything, not only the car, but everything that we do, more sustainable. It's possible. And it's not by just, demonstrating on. We had that demonstrating on the street. We had, Elon Kapina and the people, the car is evil, the car. Okay, start reading. Okay, the car is evil, fine. How could we make it less evil or not evil at all? How about if we make it a net positive? As Paul Polman says in his great book on the former CEO of Unilever, not net positive. How can you regenerate with something that was considered evil, considered something that drives us to the future in a way that creates more wealth, creates more health? That's what we need to do.
Before we ending this episode, I would like to ask you two things. The first one, something to say to entrepreneurs, some kind of advice or motivational speech. And the second one, whom you would like to see a next guest and hear his personal story.
From Finland,
Yeah, please don't make my life
difficult. There are so many impressive people. But the advice first, yeah. Mm-hmm. The advice, yeah. I think it's Sam Altman who just has done an amazing job with OpenAI. He's an inspiring leader. He definitely makes me want to trust him with where he's going. It's an amazing integrity and drive and intelligence, and it's very inspiring what they've done with OpenAI. And I like to quote him when he says, "This is hands down the best fucking time to become an entrepreneur. This is the age of AI, everybody. Let's go," right? So, and I think that what the age of AI requires from us is immense curiosity. Just enjoy asking the next question, even if you don't have the answer. Just go in there and enjoy the beautiful process of being curious and being passionate about finding answers together with other people and solving new problems with unbelievably new tools that are just boosting your effectiveness at a level you never thought possible. And where this will take us is a question of embracing and enjoying your creativity and your group creativity. And that's the best advice I can give to anyone, including myself, for entrepreneurship. And somebody who's done this and who's doing this, and I think you should invite Mikko Kodisoja. Mikko is a wonderful man, and I have huge respect for what he's done now with Fireframe, and they're transforming the way in which movies are being made for the future, and that's amazing. I mean, you feed a script to the AI, and it'll develop a movie from scratch. So, but how are they doing it in a way that is transforming entertainment? What he's done, of course, with Supercell and the gaming industry is legendary in this country. But I find him impressive, and he's very Finnish. He's very he listens a lot. Right? He has a huge amount of integrity, huge imagination, vision, and guts to go where nobody's gone before. And you should speak to him.
Got it. Thank you very much again for coming. It was absolutely a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me.
To learn from you, to hear your stories. It was like very old, very expensive wine, like which you can afford maybe once per year. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
I'm a vintage kind of guy. You're very kind. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kiitos.